Today, on an all-new View. Scenes from the insurrection. Capitol Police bring the House committee to tears with horrifying testimony about surviving a nightmare of rage.
I heard chanting from some in the crowd, "Get his gun," and kill him with his own gun.
Racism.
You hear that, guys? This voted for Joe Biden.
And the reason the violent mob said they were there.
All of them were telling us Trump sent us.
Will Republicans answer the calls for justice or echo some GOP politicians and conservative commentators mocking it as political theater? And GMA anchor Robin Roberts talks about honoring her late friend Alex Trebek by guest hosting Jeopardy! And who's turning the tables on her new series? Plus, Sarah's sharing her family's summer reading list on the next chapter of The Ladies Get Lit. Your hot topics start live right now.
Well, good morning. Hello. Welcome to The View. Yesterday, the House committee investigating the January 6th insurrection was captivated by police accounts of the hell and hatred they faced while trying to protect elected officials from rioters at the Capitol. Take a look.
After giving CPR to one of the rioters who breached the Capitol in an effort to save her life, that I finally had a chance to let my own family know that I was alive. I had to push my wife away from me because she wanted to hug me. More than 6 months later, I'm still trying to recover from my injuries.
I've been left with the psychological trauma and the emotional anxiety of having survived such a horrific event. And my children continue to deal with the trauma of nearly losing their dad that day. I feel like I went to hell and back to protect them and the people in this room. But too many are now telling me that hell doesn't exist, or that hell actually wasn't that bad. Truly nothing has prepared me to address those elected members of our government who continue to deny the events of that day, and in doing so, betray their oath of office.
I told them to just leave the Capitol, and in response they yelled, "No, man, this is our house. President Trump invited us here. We're here to stop the steal." I do my best to keep politics out of my job. But in this circumstance, I responded. Well, I voted for Joe Biden. Does my vote not count? Am I nobody? That prompted a torrent of racial epithets. One woman in a pink MAGA shirt yelled, "You hear that, guys? This voted for Joe Biden."
All of them were telling us Trump sent us. Nobody else, there was nobody else.
Sonny, what'd you think when you watched that gut-wrenching testimony yesterday?
Well, I was devastated by what I heard, by what I saw. 4 courageous, brave officers, men who are clearly still suffering from PTSD. I think that it's clear that this is the face of domestic terrorism because that is what happened on January 6th. I was also just so taken aback by the racism that was front and center during the hearing yesterday, with these brave men being called, racial slurs while they were trying to protect not only, I think, our Capitol, but our democracy. And I'm also disgusted and dismayed by the reaction of Republican leadership and Republicans in Congress who are either not watching this, who are downplaying it. Someone like Kevin McCarthy, who is supposed to be the leader, is saying things like, "I'm too busy to watch it." Other Congress people that are saying that it's not bipartisan when you have Liz Cheney there and Adam Kinzinger. And I was also disgusted by people like Laura Ingraham of Fox News, who is speaking to her millions of viewers and awarding medals to these brave officers and claiming that it was performative, as well as Tucker Carlson, who last night was laughing at some of the testimony and mocking these brave men. I'm disgusted, quite frankly, Whoopi, at some of the reactions to that brave testimony.
Sarah, how important is it for Americans to see and hear this testimony?
It's so important because, you know, one thing that happens with time is it starts to fade the reality of that day. You know, there was a poll that showed that last month 66% supported a commission to look at January 6th, and now only 58%. And what I see there is Republicans running down the clock toward midterms. They're trying to let time pass so it fades, so it's not as important, so maybe it can be rewritten. There are things about that day that I feel like any concerned American citizen should want to know. In addition to potentially congressional members giving tours in the days leading up to the January 6th insurrection, you also have a lot of military people that were part of that day. How did that radicalization happen? Like, we should want to know that if you care about this country. I also think that, you know, oftentimes on the right, you hear about, you know, supporting the blue, you know, the police. It's the party of the military. Like, that's the proud members that support our military so fervently and always have, although we all do, that tends to be something that falls on the right. If you care about the police, if you care about the military, you have to care about what happened on January 6th. And we also are in the midst of talking about raising crime rates everywhere. The country's going to, you know, hell in a handbasket, then you have to care about the crime on January 6th that happened. If you don't get to the bottom of it, it repeats itself. And I, too, was just going to echo what Sonny said. I saw the Laura Ingraham clips. And to me, there was a time where we could agree to disagree. You can use your words and you can have a conversation and end up on different sides of the aisle or a conversation, but to mock someone, like, we wonder why we're having issues with kids committing suicide and bullying. When grown adults take a platform like that and mock someone's trauma in that way, you're setting the example, and it's disgusting.
So, Joy, what did you take away from yesterday's hearing?
Well, I agree with what both Sarah and Sonny have said already, so I wasn't surprised by the reports that they gave about racism. A lot of this this insurrection was based on white supremacy and racism, so it's not shocking that one of these deplorables would use that racial epithet. You know, I was thinking, first of all, forget about the Republican Party ever being called the Law and Order Party. That's done. But McCarthy made a mistake, didn't he? He made a mistake. He was offered to have a bipartisan committee so that he could put the liars there, Jim Jordan and the rest of these guys, Hawley and Meadows and all these other liars. He could put them there. And he said no. Not that she was going to allow it, because if he picked those people, which he eventually did, Pelosi got rid of them. So, but he never had anybody, and so it must be driving Trump, the hitman, out of his mind watching this. I was taking some solace in that fact yesterday, that he's home saying, where's my Jim Jordan? Where's my Roy Cohn? He always was yelling that. Where's my side? Well, you know what, darling? Now all Americans are going to see is the truth. So that Laura Ingraham and Tucker and those other unpatriotic traitors over there at Fox don't have any of those clips to show. All they can show is the truth. So that's why they're mocking the police. They have nothing. And by the way, here's another little positive something that I took away from yesterday. In Texas yesterday, there was a special election in which the Trump-backed candidate lost. So maybe the base is getting smaller. Maybe the independents in this country are getting smarter and really going against the lies and the mendacity that's coming out of the Republican Party, which is a disgrace, as Sonny put it. I won't go any further than that.
All right, Megan, these cops were protecting Republican and Democratic officials. Why isn't this a galvanizing moment for everyone? Is it really about just winning, or have we lost something?
I mean, I agree with what you're asking, Whoopi, that it's confusing why this is being politicized, because again, it's a extremely dark day in American history, definitely one of our darkest days ever. It was just horrific to watch. I can't even fathom what it would have been like to be a law enforcement officer defending the Capitol in that time. I'm equally grossed out by anyone trying to mock the trauma of a law enforcement officer, especially because you're right, Sarah. Blue Lives Matter is something that many Republicans say and that I certainly have said and believe. Alternatively, I don't like people on the left politicizing these particular law enforcement officers, because I can remember just a few mere months ago being told that all law enforcement were irredeemable and needed different kind of training and should be defunded, and there aren't just a few bad apples. It's an entirely irredeemable group of people working in law enforcement. That's why we're having so many problems, particularly in Washington, D.C., getting people to come and be recruited to join law enforcement. There's record numbers of police officers retiring all across the country because they don't feel respected and they don't feel supported and they don't feel like they can do their jobs. So when you're saying defund the police, it's not just about cities. It's about places like the Capitol that are vulnerable, that are protecting, some of the most powerful people in all of America doing the most serious of jobs. So I would hope that politics on both sides would be removed for this, and we could take this as a teachable moment about just how valuable police officers and law enforcement are, and that the narrative and the rhetoric from the past year has been equally dangerous. And I just want to send my support to these police officers, because these people on Capitol Hill and in the rest of the country are paid very little, and they are called to do the hardest jobs and put their life on the line every single morning, which is nothing that no pundit in any studio on any network ever is called to do. And I think everyone should have a lot more respect for police officers and watch that testimony if you for some reason still don't.
Well, I applaud everything everyone is saying, but I have to point my finger to the other side. And this isn't about politicizing. These men and women were protecting, as I said in the beginning, both sides of the aisle. They weren't there as just protecting Republicans or Democrats. Their job was to protect everyone there, and for anyone on the left or the right to denigrate what they did, how they did it. I know that Kevin McCarthy suggested that, he wanted to know why the officers didn't have the training and equipment they needed. The man they should have talked to are the House and Sergeant at Arms, both whom resigned. They were on the police board. They were on the board. So this is not about defunding anybody. This has nothing to do with anything but really crappy behavior by really inspired people by the guy that used to live in the White House. That's what this is about. This is not about anything but crappy behavior, I'm going to say it again, on the other side of the aisle. We'll be right back.
Still ahead, mental gymnastics. The gold medal winning Olympic gymnast, considered to be the best to ever hit the mat, Simone Biles, says she's withdrawing from more Olympic events for her own mental health. Is this a long overdue wake-up call for all of us? Still ahead, GMA anchor Robin Roberts on how the tables are turning on her new talk show. And Sarah's turning the page on the Ladies Get Lit.
Welcome back. The gymnast considered the greatest of all time, Simone Biles, surprised the Olympics by announcing she's withdrawing from some events for a reason she thinks more people should take to heart. Take a look.
No injury, thankfully, and that's why I took a step back, because I didn't want to do something silly out there and get injured. So I thought it was best if these girls took over and did the rest of the job. It's been really stressful, this Olympic Games. I think just as a whole, not having an audience, there are a lot of different variables going into it. It's been a long week. It's been a long Olympic process. It's been a long year. So just a lot of different variables. I say put mental health first, because if you don't, then you're not going to enjoy your sport and you're not going to succeed as much as you want to. So it's okay sometimes to even sit out the big competitions to focus on yourself, because it shows how strong of a competitor and person that you really are.
Now, Sarah, you've been very open about mental health. You understand her decision?
I 100% understand her decision and admire her for the strength to recognize that. The problem with mental health is when you're an athlete and you break your foot, you can show people what that is, and there's a clear line of rehabilitation and getting back on your feet. Mental illness and mental health and its delicate nature is elusive. It can sneak up on you, and even when you've gone through a low before or had anxiety, it can creep back in when you least expect it, and you may not be able to identify it right away, but it will do its damage anyway. It can be crippling, paralyzing. Like it can... Things that you took for granted, like saying a sentence, you can forget what you're going to say and then not remember what you said, and it can get you in your head. Now, with an athlete at this level, some of the judges were scoring her down so as not to incentivize other gymnasts to do some of the level of difficulty Simone Biles has done in her routines. The scary part about that is if you're Tiger Woods and you're having an off day and you go to the golf course, it's fine, no one's going to get hurt. You have an off day or you're in your head in gymnastics at this level, she could really have hurt herself to a level that would have defined the rest of her career if there was any left to have had. Now, the one thing I want to say is it broke my heart when she said, "I hope America still loves us or loves me." That insecurity just like tugged on my heart. To me, I don't define an athlete by medals or rings or anything else. I look at them for how they redefine the sport, and she has done that. Her greatness was not diminished in the least for me, and I speak for anyone I've talked to. Bravo.
Megan, what did you feel about her announcement?
I was just surprised. You know, I had said on the show last week I was just so looking forward to watching her compete. She is the greatest gymnast of all time, if not the greatest athlete. I mean, definitely in that sport, she's just incredible. I think that I never judge what's going on. You never know what's going on with someone behind closed doors. It doesn't matter. Some of the most famous, wealthy, accomplished people I've ever met in my entire life were the most miserable, and had the most demons. And when you're competing on that kind of level, God knows the kind of pressure. I couldn't do it. I'm nowhere near an Olympic athlete. So I hope she knows America loves her. I hope that I can watch her compete again. I hope she gets to a place where she feels the support she needs. And for whatever it's worth, one of the statements that was put out was talking about her sexual trauma with her coach that had been happening to her since she was a child, and the sexual abuse that her coach had done to her and many people on the Olympic team. And the Olympic team and the Olympics really needs to start protecting people, especially young women, from things like that. That went on for years. And the fact that it's playing a role in this and her not being able to compete in the Olympics is particularly tragic.
Sonny, does this take this toll that she's taking on as an Olympian, as the dominant woman we see? Do we think we might be putting a little too much pressure on these athletes?
Well, you know, I think these athletes, they're elite athletes, and so they certainly put a lot of pressure on themselves. But in terms of the pressure being put on Olympic athletes, one need only look at the 2020 HBO documentary that Michael Phelps did, and it's called The Weight of Gold. And he outlines his own mental health struggles and the fact that he spoke to a lot of other Olympic athletes. And he said this, he said, I think it took 5 Olympics for me to really see it. I think me being in the mental state that I was going into 2016 allowed me that opportunity to be open, to have the interactions that I had with other athletes. And that led me to believe that there are others that are struggling and struggling very, very hard. He's even with his battle with depression, being an Olympic athlete, remember, he's the most decorated Olympic athlete of all time, he contemplated suicide. And so really, when you think about Simone Biles, you know, like Megan said, she did have this terrible trauma of sexual assault by her team doctor, somebody that she trusted. I've spent years working with sexual assault survivors, and it really takes mental toughness to be able to take care of yourself and your mental well-being. And what I'm disgusted again by today are people saying that she's a quitter? Are people saying that she doesn't have mental toughness? You don't get to be Simone Biles without that kind of mental toughness. How dare they? And the bottom line is this is about to thyself be true. And that is what she's doing. She's taking care of herself, her mental wellness, health. And that is what's most important here. She is the GOAT, and she will continue to be the GOAT.
Okay. Joy, what's your take on this?
I'd just like to tell everybody that the sexual abuser is rotting in jail, and I hope he just rots there. But, you know, I was thinking about how kids in this country lately, I keep hearing about this, I might be wrong, but it seems like they're being raised to be the best at something, the best. You know, there's a lot of pressure on kids to be the best. She was only 14 years old when she really started this whole thing. And I just think it's too much on all children to be told that they have to be the best at anything, whether you're in the Olympics or just in any kind of elementary school. It's a very bad idea. You should excel, for sure, and you should do the best you can. But to be the best, no, that's wrong. And I feel bad for this child. I really do. I think that she suffers because of what happened to her as a child and continues to plague her, probably.
Well, I think just as we go to break that I'll say this. Simone Biles said she needed a break, and she's taking a break. Doesn't mean she's not coming back to compete in this Olympics. And I think when she's ready, she will get out there and she will kick butt. And for all the naysayers, I dare one of you to try one thing that she has done. Just do a backflip. See, we all been sitting here with our behinds getting big. Nobody can do this backflip. So you know what? Back off and watch a pro do magic. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back. Celebrity couple Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher told Dax Shepard on his podcast that unless they actually see dirt on their children, they don't give them a bath. And people went berserk, and then added, with the exception of washing their hands, you know, on a daily basis and certain other areas. They don't bathe often either. I don't think they don't bathe. They bathe, but not as often as like some people. What do you think of this? Should people be expected to take a daily shower? I'm the stinkiest person you know right now. So, Sonny, can you live without your daily shower?
No, I enjoy a daily shower. I think it kind of sets the tone of my day, and if I've worked out, I definitely want to take a shower after working out. I don't like to comment on people's parenting, but you know, their kids are 4 and 6 and they didn't bathe them as newborns. I think Megan can attest to this. A newborn with a real smelly poop needs a bath. Kids that are running outside and being athletic like my kids are, they need a bath.
Let me get to Joy. Let me get to Joy, because we only got 2 seconds. Joy.
Oh, okay.
What about you? What do you think? Is this a hygiene problem?
I think it stinks. That's what I think. I think it stinks.
I know.
They should be washing themselves at least as often as Bernie gets washed. Next.
Sarah, are you a daily showerer?
I shower every day, but we heard this from Dr. Bo in her book, The Beauty of Dirty Skin, that there's microbiome on your skin. So you should use soap and scrub the dirty bits, but the rest you should let the water just rinse off and not scrub it squeaky clean. It actually is better for your skin not to.
That's
so
right.
I'm on board with this.
See? Megan, what do you think about this?
You're on board with the stinky people?
Not the stinky butts. Not the stinky
Wait a
butts.
minute. Hey, let me talk. You hear me talking to Megan? Hush up now. Megan, what's your feeling about all this?
Okay, so not to like name drop, but my mom is actually friends and works with Ashton Kutcher in child sex trafficking, and he has this amazing organization called Thorn.com where he's literally helping children get out of sex trafficking. So honestly, he can do anything he wants with his children because what he's doing for the children in the rest of the world is just nothing short of incredible. So I will always have respect for Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis and the incredible work they do.
I agree.
There you go. Snap, snap, snap. We'll be right back.
How are big-name guests turning the table on GMA anchor Robin Roberts? And what was the scariest interview she's ever done? She's live on The View. Next.
Americans are finally learning the truth this summer about Tulsa, Oklahoma. Buried underneath the city are what could be the answers to a century-old mystery, the remains of victims from the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921. How did this happen? Who was responsible? And how do we move forward? That's what we're trying to answer in Tulsa's Buried Truth. Available now wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome back. GMA anchor Robin Roberts has interviewed some of the biggest names in the world, but she's putting herself in the hot seat on her new series, Turning the Tables with Robin Roberts. Please welcome back the famous and fabulous and amazing Robin Roberts. And Sarah has the first question.
Robin, it's so nice to have you here. How are you doing, first of all?
I am blessed and highly favored. Doing well.
I love that. Well, I was watching, like so many people, and rooting for you, guest hosting Jeopardy, and people loved you. The reviews were amazing. You looked so relaxed and right at home. How are you feeling on the inside?
Oh my goodness, never let them see you sweat, right? Right, Sarah? First of all, I had a great time. It's one of those bucket list items when they approached me about doing it. And I'm like, did you remember seeing me on Celebrity Jeopardy? Because I was really bad. And I guess they discounted that. And it was really, really a lot of fun, nerve-wracking. And it was just me listening to myself, what I say to other people, venture outside of your comfort zone. That's what I did. And I'm so glad that I did it.
Well, Robin, I feel like everyone is a fan of Jeopardy. It's like an American pastime, but you actually had a genuine friendship with Alex Trebek, who, of course, tragically died from pancreatic cancer in November. And you said that the spirit of Alex was very much on the set. Can you tell us how?
Oh, Megan, as soon as you step in the studio there, the Jeopardy family, and they are a family. Mike Richards, the executive producer, the writers, and it's just the sense that he is still there in many ways. And in fact, when I went into the writer's room the day before we were going to tape all the episodes, because they're meticulous about the clues that they give, and so we go through it. And one of the writers, a woman, she started crying, and I said, "What?" And she said, "I was sitting in the chair where Alex normally sat, and she just felt him." And knowing that we knew each other and that we had walked a similar path with our health issues. And also they have a big picture of him on the side of the studio. So that helps. I mean, it's like the biggest mural that you would ever imagine. But just so grateful to the Jeopardy family, the staff and crew, for keeping his legacy alive as they have, and for tolerating all the guest hosts as they have as well.
Well, good morning, my soror. I just wanted to say that because you just became a member of our illustrious organization, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So welcome. Let me ask you this, Robin. You started your career as a sports reporter, and you, along with your GMA, Good Morning America colleagues, are covering the Olympics and talking about the Olympics every day. Simone Biles, as we just discussed, decided to withdraw from the team competition and all-around finals to focus on her mental health. And we've been seeing a lot of that lately, right? We saw it with Naomi Osaka as well, protecting her mental health. What do you think this means for Simone and other athletes?
And thank you for asking. Thank you. And the discussion that you ladies had earlier, I had a discussion with Michael and George off camera, because we weren't seeing eye to eye on this. So that's why I'm hoarse from screaming, because I feel so passionate about this. Thank you, Simone Biles. I mean, that took, for people to, and I agree with much of what the discussion that you all were having, on this big stage, for her to say, my mental well-being, my mental health, I'm putting that first. And what Sarah said as well, and others, I mean, what she was going to attempt to do, if your head is not in it, you could seriously injure yourself. And also how she was sincere in wanting to put her teammates in the best place. But to answer your question, I think what this does, it encourages those to have the courage to step up and to talk. We had Dominique Dawes, who was part of the 96 gymnastics team that won a gold medal in Atlanta. And she said she had a similar situation in 2000, but she couldn't articulate it. There was no one for her to go and talk to. And she really feels, as I do and others, that this really, and what Naomi did first, that they're saying, putting their hands up and going like, self-care is not being selfish. And I really applaud that they are doing that and opening up a much needed dialogue about mental wellness. If she had pulled a hammy, If she had broke, we'd be the first ones to go, oh, and understand it. Just because you can't see an issue, a challenge that someone is going through, an elite athlete or anybody in any walk of life, when they're going through these kind of issues, we've got to talk about it. We got to get it out there. And she has laid the platform to have that discussion.
I 100% agree with everything you're saying, Robin. It's so important. And as all eyes are on the games, Tokyo just set a new record of COVID cases in the last 24 hours, while here at home we battle a fourth wave. It's something we talk about here almost daily, and you cover it morning after morning. What is it going to take to get this country back in the right direction?
Yeah, we had the CDC director, Dr. Walensky, on our show this morning. It's going to take people believing the science. And yes, am I frustrated like everybody else? I'm fully vaccinated, and to be told that if I'm in a certain area that I'm going to have to mask up indoors again, do I like it? No. But I understand that the science changes and that they get the information, they base it on data. And that's what makes these guidelines have to be re-examined from time to time. It is frustrating. What is it going to take? It's going to take more people becoming vaccinated. And I know that what we're going through right now is not helping that. Those people who do not want to get vaccinated, they hear the recent news about those of us that are, can still become infected and cause transmission. But the doctors all insist, the experts all insist that if you are vaccinated, it still decreases your chances. And if you do, my doctor said the same thing to me, if for some reason I do become positive, that it will be less serious than if I had not become vaccinated. So what's it going to take? Let's talk about it. Let's all get together. Let's, if you have a family member, and we have some extended family members who don't want to get vaccinated, we don't scream and yell at them and make them feel like they're evil. We ask them, okay, what's your hesitation here? Got to talk. We got to make, not get in our separate corners and get angry at one another, but understand the differences that we have and just try and bring people together with able to give them information that they can make informed decisions for themselves. But we've got to get more people vaccinated. That's why we're in the situation that we're in now.
Okay, Robin, let's talk about your new show, which is streaming today on Disney Plus. It's called Turning the Tables. Tell everybody about it, and what can we expect to see here?
You know what, Joy? It's good. It's good. I love this. All 4 episodes. Dynamic, creative, multi-generational, multifaceted women that I have the privilege to talk with. And we had my producers and that they were giving me a rap. And because we didn't want to stop talking, they're like, we've got to get on and start with another episode. But it was real conversations, y'all. And you've had this too. And what I really appreciated, it was like not just us talking, we were listening to one another. And we were just allowing our stories to be told. And I am just so incredibly grateful and excited. And it's beautiful. This is beautiful. Can I just say that? And I love that after all this time that I've been doing this in this industry, that I still get excited. I still get excited. And this one really is special to me. It truly is.
Well, we love having you, so we'll take you. You can talk to any of us. We'll talk to you. We'll do anything. We love having you, Robin. Thank you for coming to us. Be sure to check out Robin on weekday mornings on Good Morning America and her new show, Turning the Tables, streaming on Disney Plus. And we, of course, will be right back.
Stevie!
Welcome back, Sarah. Get lit.
Thank you, Whoopi. This week, each of us are giving our summer reading list in a series we call Ladies Get Lit, and today you're going to get my picks. So as the mom of a 5, 3, and 2-year-old, the only books I have time to read these days are the books I read with my kids. So my first is The Caterpillar and the Butterfly by Michael Rosenblum. This book tells the story of a caterpillar named Fear who's afraid of everything from lightning storms, being bullied, to making new friends. When fear meets a brave butterfly named Faith, fear learns the importance of courage and how it helps you navigate the world and find joy. This book has a really important message for kids, that fear is faith turned inside out. My kids fight over this book every night. I'm going to read it regardless, but they each want it to be their book choice. It is ripped to shreds. We can't leave the house without it. The illustrations are beautiful. It's such a special book in our house. And my second pick is The Invisible String by Patrice Karst. In this children's book, twins Jeremy and Liza learn from their mother that we're all connected by an invisible string made of love. The string is the tie that binds us together, and it reaches all over the world. Now, the story uses a simple approach to teach a lesson about love and overcoming loneliness and separation, and no matter where we go, we're never really alone because love is always connecting us through this invisible string. A teacher gave this to Alec when we moved last summer, and it's been a book we use now when I leave the house during the day, when I travel. My kids talk constantly about, Mom, did you feel me? I was tugging on your heartstring. It also helps with conversations about families, lost loved ones, and that these strings reach to heaven. They're everywhere. It's just the most beautiful book, and it actually makes me cry, I think, every time, but you got to get that one. And I love these books, and I'm congratulating our virtual audience because you're all getting a copy of each one. And check out our website to find out how 15 of you at home can win all of the books from our Ladies Get Lit series, and enter for a chance to win by Friday at midnight Eastern Time. And tune in tomorrow to hear Megan's summertime reading picks. And we will be right back.
Tomorrow, Emmy, Grammy, and 6-time Tony winner Audra McDonald shares her latest battle in the good fight and how she's helping to give the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, the respect she deserves. Plus, Megan's must-reads on the next volume of the Ladies Get Lit.
Well, you know, this is the end of a really great show. We want you to have a really great day. We want everybody to take a little time to enjoy the view. Wash your hands, wear your mask, do your best, hug a friend, because that's all we got is each other. We'll see you tomorrow.
Now, when it matters most, the straightforward facts. ABC News is America's #1 news. #1 in the morning, #1 in the evening, with America's most watched newscast. #1 in late night versus the competition. #1 in politics, and most watched across this historic election versus the competition. The #1 daytime talk show, and #1 in streaming news. Most trusted, most watched. ABC News is America's #1 news.